me get started here. There might be a couple other people wandering in. You're here for the how to sew sweaters in the summertime class?
That's it?
Well, maybe we'll do that later. But, they're doing some sewing out there. I'd like to know that. I like cooking. Boy, they had a cooking class here that you cooked a 5-course meal all at once. Dude. 5 kitchens. And everybody had a different part of the 5-course meal. And then after that, you ate it. It was just fantastic. I did it about 4 or 5 times. Fun stuff. But we'll have fun too. We're going to start a business. Get your own economic destiny. I'd like to find out a little bit about people here if anybody has any growing businesses already, that so I can kind of get an idea of where we are with that. Does anyone have a business? No.
Kind of. Yeah.
Okay, kinda. What's a kinda?
Well, you know, it's my husband's an illustrator and I'm a broker and he's
You're a broker? I can't hear.
Embroidery.
Embroidery, got it.
Yeah, so we have kind of started a couple of years ago. It's not an actively rolling business.
Okay,
Not until we both retire probably,
okay.
but just to get, you know,
Yeah, so
things
getting the
going.
product worked out and
yeah, that's all.
you do go to shows, any trade shows,
Yeah,
anything?
I've been to trade shows and I've been to, I've done open air markets,
Yeah,
those, because those are easy.
yeah, okay, good. So embroidery, anybody else?
I do cards.
Cards?
I teach a card class. I sell cards. I
Oh,
produce
yeah.
cards, yeah.
You make cards and they're fancy and, you know, what I think you need to do with your card class is, our card product is, on your website, is have other things to go with it. Like 2 or 3 choices of gifts. So you're gonna send somebody a card, say, happy anniversary or happy birthday, and then give them some choices on the side of a couple of products they could send with it. That was my idea for you.
You can send my aprons.
Yeah, yeah. I'll produce the cards that go with her apron.
Yeah.
Okay, then we got a
Yeah,
business
yeah.
going, okay.
And so what you do is, you ask them, you find out what it's for, so it's for a bar mitzvah, it's for a quinceañera, or whatever it is, and then you bring in your suggestive products to go with it, you know, 6-pack of beer, or
Good one, yeah.
something else to go with
Okay.
it. Yeah, suggestive selling. And I think on YouTube, they're putting them in automatically. I'm not sure on that one. Anybody else have a business? We'll skip Anna because she's not talking today. Oh yeah, okay.
So, it's a service business, I just have an idea and I do a little bit of it, it's like,
Bye.
I'm a.
She's head accountant.
Take down. You gotta take your shoes off.
So I'm a home health aide.
Home health aid.
Yes, and now I wanna have a separate card for that business, like when I retire. You know, and then go to different houses and offer them a service, like, buying grocery for the elderly, or taking care of.
Got it. No, I understand.
I used to be a CNA, certified nurse assistant, but I didn't pursue that. So I just learned to go to houses. So I used to work for an agency, but I stopped. I became a permanent employee for the school district.
Okay.
But once in a while I do it.
Okay, so if somebody's got Alzheimer's, would you go there and hang out with them all day?
Not all day, no.
Oh,
I
not
wanna
that
do it
stuff.
all
No,
day.
no, no.
But I'm gonna do that and give the patient lunch, let's say
Ah.
lunch, and check if
So
the
you-
bedding is.
like a concierge, but that's hard to spell.
Not the whole day thing.
Okay,
Maybe 30 minutes or up to an hour. Maybe-
so facilitate, you could like, bring in food or help them, or make it for them. What about house cleaning?
Only for the patient.
Okay.
Not for the whole family or for
Okay.
the husband of the patient type.
So you
Just for-
isolate them,
Mhm.
okay.
Like the laundry of the patient, yes.
Okay. What about conservator, guardians? Like, we have guardians and conservatorships where you have somebody who's developmentally disabled,
That too, yeah.
and then they have a guardian because they're under 18. Or if they're over 18, they have a conservator. And so you could help the conservators facilitate things.
Like maybe even drive the adults with disabilities to their classes. Because I
Okay.
know, there's a band that comes to our school, they do that, they deliver or they
Right,
drive,
right.
you know, they
It's
pick
kind of
up-
cost the county connection.
Yeah,
Is the name
kind
of
of like that.
a big one.
If the conservatorship, if they don't have anybody, doesn't that usually come from the county? And,
If there are guardians or conservators,
if they need a guardian or conservator. If they don't
no,
have
not,
anybody.
okay. If they don't have anybody
Yeah.
and they have assets, the answer is no, they hire somebody. Okay, if they don't have any assets and don't have any money, yes. Yes, the county, public guardian steps in. And then they're a ward of the court and they're provided services. But a large percentage of the guardians and conservatorships, they have money. Some have money and so they're paying for their care. Sometimes they're on Medi-Cal, and they have, the guardians or conservators are either paid or not paid, volunteer. Frequently, they're family members. But it's a whole big area. We teach a court accounting class for all those folks. Yeah, because they have to turn in the finances to the court. But I don't know, that's complicated. You've got so many ifs, ands, and not this and not that. Your service is, it's hard for me to.
Isn't the insured, she's gonna have to be insured in order to be insured in general for what she wants to do, isn't it so expensive?
I don't know about the insurance. When she's driving people around, I don't know if that's,
No, that will go under her own insurance, but like for her to go in, as her business itself, she has to have insurance if she's going into people's house and helping them. In my
don't-
mind, I just kept seeing insurance going up, that
well,
you have to be covered, otherwise she gets sued, she loses everything, you have to be bonded, yeah.
well, it depends on what you're doing. I don't know the limits. One thing I'd recommend is, CPR, first aid and CPR, highest levels. And also the defibrillators. Learn how to use some of that stuff if you're in home. But I don't know where the break point is. If she's going over to somebody's house and bringing them food and driving them to the grocery store and the hair salon, I don't see where that's like super medical. I don't know. I'm trying to.
Scary, find something else.
Yeah.
No, that's what she wants to do.
Okay, well, how about an able adult but can't drive, you know? They need somebody to buy groceries for them or, you know, whatever.
We just at the office, we just moved our office and we hired an outfit called Task Rabbit. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You familiar with it?
No.
Okay,
What do you say?
so you could even probably go under that umbrella, but what we did, TaskRabbit, Krista can tell better than I. You call and you say you got something to do. We needed to have 5 desks removed. Desks, complete desks. And we called and they came moved. No, it's not, I know it's not your thing, but they do other services like assemble things when you got something, you ordered online and you got to assemble the table from IKEA and all kinds of other things. Maybe it has others, but
They have all kinds of stuff that they do, yeah.
yeah, and so you could look into it and see if the services you want are in that group of services. That's what I was thinking. Yes.
It's funny because long time ago, I wanted to open a business, not like a caregiving business, more of like giving like companionship services or doing errands
Yeah.
for people. And I thought about just an idea is there's like local radio stations that elderly people listen to, and that's one way to market, just FYI.
Yeah.
Also getting in the newsletter with Rossmore with the HOA. It's a
Yeah.
great way. But
You've got a
have-
newsletter in Rossmore.
Yeah, so you have to have a list of exactly services you do. Because you're not providing a CNA service, but you can let them know, I am CNA certified. In case he has a heart attack, I know what to do. But I'm not doing medical. I'm doing more of like grocery shopping, organizing,
I would come up with a fancy word like household management or
Personal assistant.
home administration,
aid,
something
home aid
that,
assistant.
yeah.
Use ChatGPT.
Yeah.
It's good ChatGPT is a really good name. Just say I'm trying to do a business like that, recommend names.
So then your other wife.
Yeah, that might have some legal entanglements and other things. So, but I don't know all the ins and outs and the legals of your idea. But I'm sure it'll work. I mean, there's a lot of people that need help, and a lot of people that don't get out that much. They're not driving. So what, my background is I've been doing taxes forever, since about 1976. I've always been self-employed, doing all kinds of things, and do a lot of complicated tax stuff. And then we also do wills, trusts, and estates, estate planning. Planning for where you want your assets to go and things like that. And we also do post-mortem estate and trust administration, selling houses and advising trustees, working with guardians and conservatorships and things like that. So we have a wide variety of services. But today we're going to start from scratch on starting a business. First of all, you need some kind of idea on what you want to do and why and the time frame and things like that. Take some planning ahead of time, working through, gee, what if I break this rule or I need to add this piece of equipment, and how are you going to finance it? Your money, borrowed money, pay as you go, run it on a shoestring, and we're going to talk about the types of business entities that you have as your choice of entities, registering your business, checking zoning, see if you need specialty licenses, and then if you're going to hire people or you have employer responsibilities, everybody has tax obligations. It's kind of ironic, I wanted to make sure when I started a business, the work was going to be guaranteed, so I specialize in death and taxes. So there's no way out of that. So we're go on the lower left, I put page numbers so that I can reference where I'm at in material. So prepare and plan, research your market, try coming up with different words on what kind of services, look for companies that are offering those services now. See what your competitors are doing. It's amazing how much is being taken over to get something that would normally be a do-it-yourself kind of service, and now it's on the internet being kind of automated. You might want to consider writing out a business plan if you hadn't already thought about it. Think ahead on what you're going to be doing. And then market research. Google has some databases on market research. You know, what's the market for in-home care? Or how many embroidery items were sold last year in billions of dollars? And find out what the market is. And then see what, if you're going to do it yourself or hire people or bring in the family. So I would suggest, I mean, there are books on it. This is on one of them, Starting a Business Plan.
Is that a
Go
no-
through.
NOLA book?
It's a NOLA book, yes. And so it goes through the steps and it helps you think it through, some things you would not have thought of to consider, to decide upon. There are private and governmental assistance agencies on page 7, small business development centers, small business loan guarantee programs. Probably the one you see you hear the most about is SBA, Small Business Administration. Did I get a typo again? Damn, I just can't spell word P's.
I don't seem to have a page 7 in my packet. So.
Oh, man, how deprived. Let's see what we have. Check that out. You know, there's your 7. Yeah, we just moved our office. You can recycle it or whatever. I mean, you don't need
I'll
it.
take it.
I was, our office is shambles. We just moved. We don't have internet. We don't have telephone. We don't have our computers hooked up. Everything's in boxes. I printed out these, got a printer going, and I looked around, couldn't find a stapler. Everything was in boxes. Then I found a stapler, and I hit it once. No staples. So I went down to Staples on Treat and Clayton Road, bought a box of staples, brought it back to the office in Walnut Creek, opened up the stapler, and there were staples in it. It just didn't hit it hard enough. So, yeah, I kind of missed the point on that one. I was going to say on the Small Business Administration loans, they have them, they're federal guaranteed. One thing people don't realize is that you tie up the equity in your house, they secure them by your real property, just so you remember to pay it off. There's financial development corporations, and then California has a governmental agency, access to capital. And real big businesses might issue bonds. Then it's kind of like Shark Tank. We call them angel investors. There's Securities and Exchange Commission has a definition that if somebody has over $1 million in assets, over $300,000 of income, then they're an accredited investor. So you can offer them proposals that you would get in trouble offering people with less assets because they need that money to live on. And so when you talk about venture capitalists and angel investors, these are people that want to put money in a business in exchange for ownership in the future, I mean, and profits in the future. And I've listed some groups on page 8. Band of Angels, that's one group. They got a website you can look up. So what you'd end up doing, the way this would work is you'd put together your business plan and you would contact these groups and you'd submit your business plan and they would grill you up one side down the other to see if it would worth investing any money in. And if they like it, they might invest some money. Tech Coast Angels is one group in Sacramento. That's $1 million a year they invest. And then Angel List, I'd recommend not seeking the Hells Angels for startup capital because their interest rates are too high. So skip that. And then there's venture capitalists that are, they usually have the wait until the business is going and shows a good track record before they'll get involved. There's a really good book by John Doerr, who D-O-E-R, he helped build up Google, and his book is Measure What Matters. He was inside huge startups and huge growth in tech industries. John Doerr, Manage What Matters. Okay, so we're going to jump into business entities. This gets a lot of the talk on starting a business. There's 6 general types that are commonly known. This one's the easiest to form, sole proprietorship. And it's the one I recommend people do the most when they're starting out. Because I don't think people should go and spend, $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 in starting a business and getting an entity and getting all this reporting requirements, and they haven't even sold anything. Because I've had clients come in, they had this product that was for construction. They formed an LLC, they got all this stuff together, they did all this effort, and nothing ever happened. And so what I'm saying is get your business going before you waste money on an entity. And that same client came back 7 years, 6 years later, had another idea, they wanted that entity. And I said, I'm not forming it for you until you go out and talk to your customers and see if anybody wants to buy what you're selling. He said, well, we got to get an entity because I'm going in with a partner and I don't want liability. And I said, go out and sell. They came back and said, never mind, we don't need the business entity. So I just saved them $3,000. So for sole proprietorship, you don't need anything. You don't need a fictitious business name statement. That's where, what that means is you're using a name other than your name. So if I use my name, sole proprietor, Rex Crandell, fine. You don't need a fictitious name. But in my heart of hearts, if I want to start a business called Sugar Daddy, then I'm going to have to go down and register Sugar Daddy with the county clerk's office. And what happens is you register it, and then you have to advertise it in newspaper and general circulation. And then after that, you can open up a bank account because the bank wants to see that you advertised. So this is the simplest, easiest, especially if you're not really sure about types of businesses. The other, I'll go through in logical format for tax-wise for the entities. This if you form any corporation, when you start out, it ends up being what they call a C corporation. So how that works is your income comes in, you have all your expenses, and then you have net income. And that net income gets taxed at 21% net income for federal and almost 9%, 8.84 for state. And these are not, I don't see too many of them in small businesses. And then after you've paid all that tax, you want to take dividends out to use the money, you got to pay tax on the dividends. All big stock exchange companies, they're all C corps. It's required. Well, sometimes they're limited partnerships. So I have clients that use this form, and what we do is we make sure there's no net income. Get together in November, they've got a certain, say, 30,000 of net, that's your payroll. They take out payroll, net income's always zero, they pay no income tax. Okay. Then, so all corporations start out as C corps, but let me hammer on the term entity first, because it's usually a little bit confusing. So there are natural entities and legal entities. Natural entities are like humans, you know, you just have twins and now you've got two little natural entities and everybody goes, oh wow, how cute. Well, those are natural entities and like sole proprietors that can run a business. And then you have legal entities. So legal entities are corporations, municipal corporations, all the different types of large businesses you run into, and LLCs. And when they say they're a legal entity, what that means is they have a separate existence, they have a separate ID number, tax ID, and they can sue and be sued and make contracts separate from the owners. And that's what we're referring to in a business entity. Some that are not business entities, they look like it, but a general partnership, 4 people get together. There's no entity there. Each person's all liable for whatever it does. Okay, so the C Corp is what you start out as. And then if you just form a corporation and you don't want to be a C Corp, there's a form with IRS, form 2553. You file with IRS and say, I don't want to be a C Corp anymore, I want to be an S Corp. It stands for Small Business Corp. Came out in 1959. So what happens in this entity, you have income and expense, and you have net income. But that net income is not taxed within the entity, because it's going to be flowing out to the owners. So the entity itself is not like with the C Corp. The entity falls out on these forms K1. And on a K1, it's like a W-2, but each person gets a K1, like a W-2. And you look at it and say, oh, I've got so much income to report here. And so it's called a flow-through entity. Sometimes it was called the Lipton tea bag approach to corporation to flow through. But the entity itself pays no income tax. It flows out and it shows up on the individual's 1040 tax return, Schedule E. on this particular entity, you have to take out a salary, the owners. And that's why sometimes people don't like the S corps. They have to take out payroll. I don't want payroll. So you can be a sole proprietor, no payroll. You can be an LLC and have no payroll. But if you have an S corp, you have to have payroll. What a reasonable salary. And the reason for that is normally when you're earning income, like say as a sole proprietor, you have net income. So you take that net income and okay, I'm gonna bring it over to my regular income tax bracket. But since you earned it with your own self-effort, you bring it over to the self-employment tax and you get to tax it over there at 15.3% of net income. So there's two taxes on it, and it's not that bizarre because when you have a W-2 and withholding, you see that Social Security is taken out of your check. You can't get a check otherwise. But when you have a paycheck, only half of it's taken out. The employer pays the other half. When you're self-employed, you have to pay both halves of that. But yeah, it's a tax, but it goes into your Social Security for your retirement. Another thing we do with the self-employment tax is if you're short, you need 40 quarters in order to claim Social Security. You have to work that long, 10 years. And if you don't have enough, on the Schedule SC, you can check a box and pay this optional self-employment tax, like $240, and it adds 4 more quarters onto your Social Security qualifier. So sometimes that can be really helpful for people who haven't worked 10 years. You just keep adding it on, and it's very economical. It's on the backside of the Schedule SE. Quite useful. So I was telling you about the two kinds of tax, income and self-employment. With the S corp, because you already took out a salary, when this income comes out to you, you do not have to pay that Social Security again. So we call it beating the FICA game. And if you have enough salary to satisfy the IRS, then you save that amount of tax. You don't pay it at all. Any questions so far? Anybody wait? Oh. C corp, let's see, keep going here, see if we can find another one. Okay. This little bugger, the LLC. This one cracks me up. You ever see these ads on the internet, on TV? Make it official. Form an LLC. For what? What's official? You don't even know what you're getting into. But let me do the tax first, and I'll come back to the legal part of it. If you have a partnership, people together in an entity, group, or LLCs are real common, especially with real estate purchases. People are putting money together and buying properties. If you're buying rental properties, the lender's not going to let you put it in an LLC. If you're buying rental property, you've got to put it in your name, close escrow, and then put it in the LLC. But the way it works tax-wise, you've got income and expense and what's left over, and there's holes in the bucket, and each of the 3 owners get their distributive share of net income, and we're back to, they get income tax on that money, and they have self-employment tax on that money. It's a real common way to run businesses. There's different aspects to it. If it's just one owner, then you don't have to do a separate tax return for federal. It's called disregarded. But California wants a tax return because they're enthusiastic about charging taxes. They have you file another return to see if they can tax you some more. But I'd say the LLC are the most popular entities right now. But I don't think they're needed half the time. I don't think there's enough risk. You know, get regular insurance for liability, get an umbrella policy about that, and you may not need the LLC. The other part of the liability with these entities, and it's kind of flipped the way people say it, oh, no personal liability, What does that mean? It means a lot different than what you probably think it means. So this is my corporate shield, okay? So if I'm a corporation or an LLC and I sign a lease, I'm not personally liable. Nanner can't get me. Okay? Personally, no. If I get sued as an LLC or a corp, and it sues just this entity, you're not personally liable. But oftentimes on leases and purchases of things, you have to co-sign. Now you're personally liable. So it did nothing. But this myth about no personal liability, let me show you how it really works in real life. So I'm going to have an LLC and I won't have any personal liability. Oh boy. So you're running your business and you get sued. Big time. We act as agent for service of process for corporations and LLCs. We got served papers in the office for one of our clients' wrongful death case. Whoa. We're talking big bucks now. So now the liability's a big concern. So, but what happens with your entity is the opposing attorney sues your limited liability or corp, and they sue the owners personally. And so you go to court and you talk to the judge, and what's the judge say? Yeah, who are you? I'm the dupee or something, and I'm representing myself. Okay, who's that? Oh, that's my LLC. I'm representing your LLC. No, you're not. You cannot represent yourself as an LLC in court. You must be represented by an attorney for a corporation and an LLC. It just doesn't work. So in the normal scenario, they sue the person and the LLC, and the person goes, Your Honor, I'm an LLC, you should take me off of there. The judge says, I don't think so. Well, I got limited liability. I don't think so. You're still on the case. So what happens now? You say, well, I can represent myself because I'm personally named. I can't represent the entity. So you find an attorney to represent you on this big lawsuit, and they say, okay, well, this kind of case, we need $45,000 advance retainer, or we're not going to pick up a pencil. Oh, that's kind of bad news. I thought I had limited liability. What happened now? So you don't hire the attorney. Now I got $45K. What happens? You can represent yourself. You're still in litigation. They get a default judgment against your entity because it's not represented. So it already lost the case. This is no liability. Gee, wonderful. It's a lot more complicated than it looks. So let's take that example again with a sole proprietor. Same story. Get sued. Okay, bad news normally. I'll represent myself. I don't have any money. Go talk to the judge, and it says, what do you want to say? They talk with you. You represent yourself. You can do it, but you cannot do it with a corp or an LLC. So that's the big hidden joke to me when they say, oh, no personal liability. Ha, not quite. Doesn't work that way at all. But nobody, I never see any of this stuff. I never seen it published. I just know how the rules work. Anybody have any questions? Okay. Let's see. Oh, there's another thing you can do, and that's if you have an LLC and you want to be an S corp. There's a federal form you can fill out, that form 8832, where you say, we're an LLC, would like to be taxed as a corporation or an S corp. So you don't have to form a new entity. And sometimes we'll do that, sometimes we'll form a new entity if they want to change form. The cost for a sole proprietorship, the cost is almost nothing, I mean less than $500. If you form the LLC or corporation, I've had a corporation since 1981, and I've paid over $33,000 in $800 annual fees. So such a deal. I don't know. It adds up at that $800 a year. And that's not all. I mean, there's all these hidden fees with the government. You form a new entity, and then you've got 90 days to file a statement of information. What's that? You tell them who your agent for service and legal process is. They could put it on the application that when you formed your entity. Oh no, we need to have you do that within 90 days later, so that nobody does it. And then you get a $250 fine, and you get to pay the $25 to file it to tell them you have an agent for service of process. We frequently act as agent for service of process for our clients that we formed entities for. Okay. Any questions on entities before we leave them? Yes?
Can I build a partnership with my husband and wife, LLC partnership? Is that possible to do?
Yes, if you use the right terminology, I'll let you. But other than that, what you do is, so when you have a single member LLC, you just put it on Schedule C. But if it's a more than one owner, so which is purely agreeable, you can have both owners and each one gets a K1. Now you're prohibited from putting it on Schedule C. So it's a way to, they call these disregarded entities. It's a way to get it out of disregarded. Just have one more owner. But there's no problem at all between spouses setting up LLCs and being two separate owners. They can be different percentages, whatever you want. There's no problem at all. There's another one that I'm working on. It's called the Global Business Trust, where we form an irrevocable trust, and then we run a business out of the trust. And that one's really, it's in design phase right now, but you don't have that annual fee, and the government doesn't know what to do with it. You report it on a fiduciary income tax return, and you issue K1s in your self-employment tax, but that's gonna be a fun one. And, when you, I'll pass out the DBA or fictitious business name statement form, and it asks what kind of entity you are. So we've been talking about you're just a people, and you want to do a business name, fine. But you can also use it for a married couple, co-partners, venture, a trust, unincorporated association. So if somebody, like, when we form an entity and they wanted a certain name in the state, and we can't get it, so don't worry about it. Pick any other name you want. Get the company formed, and then we go over to the county and make it look exactly like you want. And then the bank accounts and everything is open that way. No problem at all. But this form is just really simple. I'll pass it out. You just file it. You bring it to a newspaper, they call it general circulation, which is around the local area that gets distribution. But pick the cheapest one. You don't want the East Bay Times that charges $600. We use the Contra Costa News Register that might be $125. And they advertise it, whatever it is, once a week for 4 weeks. And then we get your proof of advertising.
So in other words, it can be any newspaper, it doesn't definitely, there's
I
no,
can't hear you.
it can be any newspaper, there's no like prescribed, it has to be this county's newspaper or something.
Okay, what the term in law, they say a newspaper of general circulation.
Mhm.
So there are only a few of them
Mhm.
that qualify under that name.
Okay,
But I guarantee you the Contra Costa News Register is the cheapest.
makes sense.
Because I've shopped it. And we formed deeds for you for doing real property deeds not long ago, and we advertised it through there. So you got a business form. Now you need an ID number. You don't use your social security number anymore. So we go online, get them from IRS. There's a form, SS4. They're also online forms. We get them for clients while they wait. You get a letter and it says your ID number is this, and that and your formation papers should be able to open a bank account. If you're a sole proprietor, I recommend you get a federal ID number anyway. So that, you know, if you're gonna get a 1099 for something, give them your federal ID. You still get the 1099, but your social security number's not out. Okay. If you're illegal alien and don't have any IDs, that's not a problem. You can fill out an ITIN, and that is W-7. You put your passport and everything either to the IRS or through an agent to the IRS, and they give you an individual taxpayer identification number that can be used for tax reporting. It does not give a person a right to work in the U.S. or allow them to receive Social Security or claim the earned income credit. On page 23, if you go to LegalZoom, you get an entity form, they give you a piece of paper and say, here's your entity. If our office forms it, I show a picture there, we give you a corporate kit with stock certificates and information on your obligations as an employer. On page 24, sometimes I'll run into people that have an out-of-state company and they think they're invisible in California. Nobody can see us. Because we're in Delaware or a Nevada corporation. Guess what? It doesn't work. If you have an out-of-state corporation or LLC, you bring it in, you have to register it just like every other entity and pay like every other entity. And companies who don't, they they get sued and they can't use the court, they can't even talk. They're not authorized to be in the state at all. On page 28, especially for home-based businesses, we recommend getting public mailbox, so it's separate from your home, and you can receive UPS and FedEx shipments. And I don't mean the United States Postal Service PO Box. I don't mean that at all, because FedEx and UPS cannot work out of there. If you got a PO box, I do have one, and somebody sends something to me from Amazon and it's on FedEx, they can't get in the post office even let me know anything was shipped. But you use these private mailbox companies, they can receive your mail, forward it, use it for shipping. And it gives you a level of anonymity and privacy. I especially recommend that for women going into business. You know, you want to keep the booger man away. You don't want to come around all the time. So you get a business location address. Okay, we already talked about opening a bank. Looking around to find out what kind of business licenses you need. There's page 31 Cal Gold website. You can look up different kind of licenses that you might need. For page 33, employer responsibilities. Every new business that we form, business owners come in and say the same thing. It's like required. They say, we've decided we don't want payroll. We're just gonna put everybody on 1099 and not have any payroll. And it doesn't work. People try it, and there's a problem with it is that they're really employees, and then the employer is liable for the employer's tax and the employee's tax. We had one carpet company that did that to a bunch of people, and EDD came in and charged them the employer and the employee's payroll tax back for 3 years. Huge amount of tax. And the carpet guy says, well, some of those people paid income tax on that money. EDD says, prove it. It's like, you're so far gone that way with the liability, it's not worth it. And there's another factor too, when you have employees, is you get workers' comp. Workers' compensation. So if somebody gets hurt on the job, they're not gonna sue you for being hurt on the job because workers' comp is designed to cover them on the job. That's what it is. And if you don't have it, there's a $1,500 fine per person. But it's way better off for the employer to have payroll and workers' comp. Not even a close comparison. Even longer. In terms of bookkeeping, when you get started, you need to keep good records, accurate records, and contrary to popular belief, cash is taxable. It doesn't mean it's not taxable. I've heard that rumor a lot, and I'm sorry. It doesn't work that way. It's taxable like any other income. I suggest getting a bookkeeper, maybe getting QuickBooks yourself. Whatever you don't want to do is not set up a bookkeeping system and wait till the end of the year. What our clients do is, the people who hate paperwork, this is what they do. They I'm gonna get to it, I got all this stuff there, and then time goes by and they keep accumulating it, and they didn't wanna do it anyway, and it gets to the end of the year, and oh my God, now it's a huge project, oh, I hate it, they just set the whole thing up. It's called a self-fulfilling prophecy. You hated it, so you made it worse on yourself, so you'd suffer. So if you hate it, take the time now and fix it, and do your books every month, your income and expenses, every time the bank statement comes, and keep it up to date. On page 39 is a rudimentary example of a profit and loss statement. I call it income statement. So as a business owner, this is your report card. You got income on the top, cost of materials in the middle, and then expenses. And then after all your legitimate expenses is your net. So that's your report card. And personal items don't go in this list. Your personal groceries, things like that. Only direct business related items. Then on page 40 is a balance sheet. This one is not as critical for a small business, but it's part of the package. You have your assets on the top half, and then your liabilities and equity. And if you took out personal expenses, say a personal vacation, it ends up under the stockholder equity, so you don't deduct it. Obviously, you're going to need an internet presence. We don't cover that here. It's a huge topic on its own. Cross-eyed after all of that. Page 44, I believe that honesty and integrity, especially in business, is extremely important. To be honest and truthful on all your transactions. That's the glue that holds our whole society together. Do you need a seller's permit? Are you selling things retail? Are you selling things wholesale? So the difference is, if you make something and you sell it to the end user, that's retail. So you're supposed to have a resale permit, collect tax, pay it to the state. If you're selling to third parties, say I've got a wholesale auto parts distribution, then the end user, the end seller is supposed to collect the sales tax, but one of the tricks that the state uses is you've got to have a card on each one of your retailers that you're selling to, their ID number, and that they're going to be collecting the tax. If you don't have that card, the government assesses you that tax. One of the salient downsides of the LLCs on page 46, there's a sneaky little tax based on gross sales. It's the only entity that gets taxed on its gross sales is the LLC. So if you have sales over 250,000, then you've got to pay, in addition to the 800 every year, you have an additional tax. And there's the chart that shows it. We had an LLC that came in, I was doing the tax return, and they were paying like 9,000 to 11,000 extra just for their LLC fee. You know, this is crazy. Scrap this LLC, get an S Corp, which we did. Now it's 800, pay fixed fee every year, 800, nothing. So if you have high gross and low net, you really don't need an LLC. state government is focused on the consumer and they're anti-business pretty much. So if you have a dispute with a consumer, make it right, because it's assumed that the business is wrong out of the gate, and so it's just better to make all the consumers happy. On page 49, there's a list of agencies that help small business. The Small Business Administration has a consulting group called SCORE, Service Corps of Retired Executives, where they take retired executives, you go make an appointment, I did that one time, and they consult with you on whatever business aspect that you want to talk to us about. No charge. There's one in San Francisco. There are a lot of resources available. So, that's the material for tonight. And I want to see what other questions there might be.
So if a husband and wife are starting a small business, what would you recommend? Like not an LLC, would it be an S corp or, because now it's not a sole ownership, right?
Okay, so what are you starting before I?
Well, we're thinking of some sort of online service, maybe some sort of event planning. Everything is mostly going to be online.
Okay.
It's just an idea that.
Sure.
like,
No, that's
just a week
fine.
ago.
No, that's fine. I'm just trying to get a context.
Yeah.
But you could file a fictitious business
Okay.
and then get a federal ID number. It doesn't cost you hardly any.
But is that a sole proprietorship then, type of thing? Or is there two of us?
That becomes a little bit of a question. You can take a Schedule C is where you put your income and expense. So what some people will do is they'll put their income and expense on Schedule C, and then for a couple, and then they'll take the self-employment tax schedules and split them.
Okay.
So, I had one client one time where they had done it for a long time and the wife didn't ever get any Social Security. She needed it first and she didn't have 4/4. So you would split the self-employment tax. You don't have a separate entity. That's another big salient part of these LLCs and corps. You have your regular tax return every year. And then you generally will hire somebody for $600 to $1,400 a year to do this entity's tax return. In addition, you get to pay another $800 to the state to be on their mailing list. So these entities are not economical sometimes in the smaller level. But in your case,
Just get
it
it.
started out easy.
I want to keep it easy, honestly. Don't want to complicate it unless we have to.
Excuse me while I joke with that, but get your domain and then name that your business,
Makes sense.
and then you're set. And sugar daddy's already taken it. Forget that, I already checked that.
One more question. So before we set up the business, since we're thinking of some event planning, we're gonna do a lot of like networking, trying to create whatever vendors are out there, meet them, tasting, whatever, right? And all of that, if we keep the receipts for them, we use as an expense when we launch the business, or it's only after the business is launched?
Okay, so
For the
let
tax
me
purposes.
translate your question.
Okay.
What do we do with all the pre-opening expenses before we actually open and go into business?
Yes, thank you.
That's under section 195 of the Internal Revenue Code.
Okay.
And what you do is you accumulate those costs until you actually are ready for business. Then you amortize them over 5 years. After you're ready for business, open, they're just ordinary expenses.
carry across tax years then as well,
5
right?
years.
Yeah, the accumulated before you open is accumulated.
Right, but you were saying amortized over 5 years, but if, say for example, we have some expenses this year and then next year, and then we open in late 2025.
You take the first batch, put it on a balance sheet and do nothing with it. Take the second batch and put it on a balance sheet and do nothing with it. When you open, then you start depreciating all of them over 5 years.
You said 125.
It's internal revenue code section 195. It's called pre-opening expenses. I have an idea for you.
Yes.
Why don't you do weddings?
Well, that's part of
Part of
it.
it.
No, I'm not talking about planning, I'm talking about actually doing it. Saying, you get a universal life church ministry, and you can actually perform the weddings yourself.
Oh, okay, we'll write that down. Be the efficient, basically.
You're spreading the gospel.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Okay.
No, that's a great idea, I'll take that
So
down.
universal life church. And so you're required for the event in order to sign the marriage certificate. There's another way to do the marriage certificate, and that you get one person that is gonna be a one-time only disciple of the God and sign it one time. But with this universal life church, you do them all day long. No problem.
That's a great idea.
How many years, excuse me, can you claim a loss? Starting.
Okay, yeah, what the rules are, those are
Years?
under the hobby loss rules.
Uh-huh.
Internal revenue code. You have to show a profit 2 out of 5 years. Unless you close down one business and open up another one. Then it starts over. So it's presumed to be a hobby if you don't have
If you
that
don't
profit.
make a profit.
It doesn't mean, yeah, you're trying, you can't write it off unless you think you're gonna make a profit. What they don't like is somebody with 500,000 of income, and then they got this business over here that never really takes off called horse racing or horse breeding, and it just seems to lose money all the time. Or they do boat racing, you know, and it just seems to lose money. They frown on that. They call that a hobby. And you can write off all your expenses down to zero net income on a hobby.
And how, that's the determination you make, that it has to, 2 out of 5 years.
You have to have profit.
You have to have
I'll tell you what I did IRS one time. I had a client that was, they did roping, you know, rodeo roping. And so they were running loss. I go, holy mackerel, you can't be doing this every year, a loss. They were really into it. So one year I said, my gosh, I don't think you need all these expenses. So they had a small profit. We got audited. Had to go to Stockton, and the auditor was going through all the years. Saw that one little profit, couldn't knock it over. So that's how you don't have to claim all your expenses.
Right.
Yeah.
So he can, even make a small profit.
Yeah, I mean, you can run losses. It's not, it's, when you get less than 2 out of 5 years no profit, it's a presumption. You can overcome that by showing the effort that you're putting into it. And they look at the degree of personal pleasure. Is it a fun thing other people like to do? I mean, they look at all these factors to see if it looks like a gimmick.
Sorry, we need to head out.
You can leave if
Thank
you want.
you. I wanted to talk to you,
You're
but
not-
maybe you need to head out. About your heart stuff. Maybe I'll run into you again. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
You haven't said nothing, man.
Observing.
That happens. I don't wanna put you on the spot. What kind of business you do?
So, I do day trade.
You do what?
I do day trading.
Day trading?
Yeah, I do day trading. So I was just trying to figure out, because I hear on YouTube saying start a quarters to try to avoid some taxes.
Day trading, you're in a narrow window, okay? Day trading is not really a trader business, in my view.
No, yeah, no, absolutely.
It's kind of like a professional gambler, huh?
No, yeah. that's-
Oh, huh? Really?
Okay.
Professional? Yeah. And then you got the wash sales rules.
Yeah, you have to watch that.
I don't see where an entity's gonna help you at all. And one of the problems that you don't wanna have self-employment tax.
Okay.
That's not fun.
Yeah, that's what I'm here trying to figure. I'm trying to figure out.
You don't wanna be an entity. You
Okay.
don't wanna be a business. Don't put it on Schedule C.
No, okay.
So, who else has questions? Because everybody's gotta leave at some time. But I'm happy to stay as long as there's questions.
How about like I said, my husband is an illustrator.
Okay?
But you were talking about that people living in, what's the one they give them when you just, another one, 1099?
Anna, just a second.
I apologize, I gotta run to my kiddos.
You gotta get your kiddo. I wanted to show you this for 2 seconds.
Okay.
This is the book I just published.
So if those employers are all giving him 1099s, you're saying that the employer that he works for at that time period has to pay Social Security
Okay,
tax?
no.
I don't-
Okay,
it's
so
not.
I'm talking about a business owner.
Oh, business owner.
Business owner.
Okay.
Okay, so from that standpoint, you have your husband with all these 1099s, and guess what? Each 1099, he's supposed to be in his own business. That's why he's getting a 1099.
Well, yeah.
And you don't look at it as his own business,
Yeah.
right? Neither does the government, and that's the rub. But the rub is not your problem. The rub is who's paying.
I see. Okay.
It's called employee reclassification. So what they do is they take all these 1099s, you try to file and follow the rules. Oh, I gave the 1099, nanner.
I see.
And then the EDD comes along and says, thanks. Now they're employees, thanks for telling us.
Okay.
Now you gotta pay their payroll tax. And the other, from the employer's standpoint, is the person, yeah, you're independent, you're not my employee, okay, fine. Then what happens, they go down and file for unemployment. I got unemployment now, who's your last employer? And you just brought the EDD right in on you.
Yeah.
They have a signed statement that you were my employer. Oops, more payroll tax. Don't pay, I don't play that game. No independence. It's not that I'm opposed to like the Declaration of Independence or anything else, but independent contractors, not in my office, it's employee. And then, you know, you got workers' comp, you got Social Security. I don't have to.
It's probably especially gotten much worse, well, not with Uber, DoorDash, all those things.
That one is huge. That's AB5, and they're putting them under.
And
They're trying to make them employees.
what business are you guys interested
I'm not. I'm just the support system.
in? Okay.
Retail.
Pardon?
Make a
Retail.
small retail.
Retail clothing.
No, like home goods, like body care and
Creams,
yeah, like the essential stuff. Mostly like
essential
candles.
oils.
Yeah, like low package items. Basically like a retail shop.
Okay. So you'd have a website and you'd have a lot of specialty items.
Yeah.
Okay. And is it going now?
No.
Not yet, okay. You don't have the website up and running?
No.
Nothing?
Not
Oh,
yet.
well, that's good.
Yeah, she's working on it.
Yeah, you get a website that says it has a back office. And the back office is the retail part of your website template. You see, all the things you want this, you pick it, you want that, and you pick it. Those kind of functions are common, so you get a website template with that already in it. You don't have to design it. Yeah.
I have another question. How about those people who come up with an idea, come up with a product, have it made in China, have it made in, well, a lot of them, and then bring it to Amazon, and Amazon sells it for them.
Yes.
They put it on Amazon. So when they're going through that many people to actually get this product out there, are they themselves the actual business?
I understand the question.
Yeah.
I had a web designer tech working in our office, and he did all kinds of stuff like that. He did arbitrage, where he would find stuff cheap on Facebook Marketplace and sell it on Amazon for a higher price because they were different. And so he was a vendor within the Amazon vendor group. And so any of the sales end up going on his ticket. And there's, I forget the name of it. It's not a 1099. It's kind of like an I-5 or something. I can't remember the government form. But they keep saying they're going to bring it out. So we take credit cards. Okay, we have two main companies, law and CPA, and we take credit cards in each. So at the end of the year, the credit card companies are supposed to issue us a 1099 on how much stuff was sold through the credit card. And then the IRS looks at the tax return and says, we see $10 of sales, but we see $150,000 of credit card charges that came through your account. How come there's that difference? Okay, so in your example, that's how it gets picked up, is that person is having the stuff charged. And I believe that Amazon even charges the sales tax. But they are in fact an entrepreneur, but they're kind of like a blip on a screen. I'm this player and I got this stuff selling, that stuff selling. It's a pretty good deal, actually. There's, that's why Amazon's so large, is, selling through Amazon. And another one they do that works real well is like, I forget the name of it.